The MLB Draft is on Sunday, so it's time for us to start getting familiar with the picks that the Mariners could be taking in the 2023 MLB Draft. Now remember, the Mariners have 3 first-round picks, which is absolutely unheard of. Of course, they have the 22nd, the 29th, and the 30th pick. Now, of course, they got an extra pick because of Julio winning Rookie of the Year, so this is a really good time for the Mariners to restock on this farm system that was one of the best in baseball and now ranks kind of towards the bottom just because they've graduated so many guys. There are quite a few players on this list I think would fit the Mariners really well, and we're going to talk about all of them in this video. But I think first we need to look back at who the Mariners have drafted in the past 5 or 6 years to get a feeling of where they might go in this draft. Let's go back to 2016. The Mariners selected Kyle Lewis from Mercer University at the 11th pick. Then in 2017, they picked Evan White, first baseman out of Kentucky, at 17. Then Logan Gilbert from Stetson at 14 in 2018. 2019, they drafted George Kirby out of Elon at 20. Then they drafted Emerson Hancock out of the University of Georgia at 6 in the 2020 draft. And then Harry Ford out of North Cobb High School at 12. And then last year in 2022, they drafted Cole Young out of the North Allegheny High School at 21. So there was a bit of an interesting trend here with Kyle Lewis, Evan White, Logan Gilbert, George Kirby, and Emerson Hancock. All of those guys were drafted right out of college instead of out of high school. The Mariners weren't really focusing on prep talent because they were trying to find a way to speed up their rebuild a little bit. Generally speaking, when you pick a guy out of college, they're going to be a little bit closer to the big leagues. It makes sense, right? They've developed a little bit longer, and we've already seen that. Obviously, we saw Kyle Lewis, Evan White, Logan Gilbert is still here, George Kirby is still here, and Emerson Hancock is knocking on the door. All of these first-round picks for the Mariners have honestly made a big impact already. Of course, Kyle Lewis won Rookie of the Year, Evan White won a Gold Glove, Logan Gilbert just threw his first complete game of his career, and of course, George Kirby is this year an All-Star. Then Emerson Hancock, Harry Ford, and Cole Young are all still in the minor leagues. And then looking at Harry Ford and Cole Young, it makes sense that they're a little bit further away because they were drafted out of high school, so they're a little bit younger. Usually you get a guy out of college around 21, 22 years old. Out of high school, you'll get him at 17, 18 years old. No matter what, the people that you draft in this draft are probably a few years away from contributing. Every now and again, you'll see a guy get drafted one year, come up the next year. That does happen, but more often than not, it's going to take them a couple of years to really make it to the big leagues. And my thought process with the Mariners in this draft is that they're going to go with the best talent available, probably up the middle. Somewhere in the infield, I would think either shortstop or second base would be a good start, maybe even catcher. And then you'll focus on outfielders and pitching. So I think pitching is going to be the least of their worries, at least at the start of this draft. They might further on in the draft pick some pitchers, but at the start of this draft, they're focusing on getting impact bats in the middle of the infield. That is my understanding. Now, keep in mind, I am absolutely no draft guru, but these are just my thoughts. We have the 2023 prospect rankings for the draft prospects here on MLB.com. Obviously, Paul Skeens and Dylan Cruz, they're probably going to go 1-2 in some way, shape, or form out of LSU. That's been widely talked about. And for the Mariners, it's actually interesting because they have so many draft picks in the first round, they have a higher bonus pool, so they'll be able to pay these guys more than, say, I don't know, the Oakland Athletics or something in this first round. So the Mariners may be able to float somebody down to 22. Simply because they'll be able to pay them a higher signing bonus out of their bonus pool than other teams are willing to. So with that in mind, I'm going to start here with Colin Houck. As you can see here, Colin Houck is out of Parkview, Georgia. He is 18 years old. He throws right, bats right, and he's a shortstop. Houck was a two-sport prospect playing both quarterback in high school as well as baseball. He turned down football offers from Power 5 programs to commit to Mississippi State for baseball, though he's unlikely to get to Starkville as a projected first-round pick. MLB.com says Houck's combination of strength and bat speed give him plus raw power, and the right-handed hitter already shows propensity for driving balls in the air to his pull side. He does swing and miss and chase pitches more than is ideal at times, though there's optimism he can improve as a hitter once he concentrates solely on baseball. He's looked more consistent at the plate this spring and does use the entire ballpark, though most of his pop is to left field. He was Gatorade's Georgia State Player of the Year, and he's pretty quick, but in my opinion, Colin Houck's probably going to move over to third base. Again, 6'2", he's a big guy, and his defense at shortstop may be kind of touchy at times. I think moving him over to third base, he'd be really good defensively, but with that being said, the Mariners would give him every chance to play shortstop in their system. Now you may be thinking to yourself, but Colton, the Mariners already have Cole Young, Felton Celestin, etc., and I agree with you wholeheartedly. Of course, there's always a chance that these guys don't make it to the big leagues, and there's also a chance that these guys can move around the infield, second base, shortstop, even first base if you have to, and there are some guys on my list that grade out pretty well in the outfield as well. Houck is a big bat, obviously out of high school, so he'll take a little bit more time to develop than somebody out of college would, but I think if you're able to float him down from 12, which is where they have him ranked in MLB prospects rankings, I would move him down to 22 if you can float him that far. The guy that I have at the top of my list is easily my favorite player on here, so we're, of course, going to wait till the end to tell you about him. Next, let's talk about Thomas White, a left-handed pitcher. White is also just out of Phillips Academy in Massachusetts. He is also a prep arm. He's 18 years old, throws left, bats left. He's 6'5", and he's committed to Vanderbilt. He was up to 96 and 97 miles an hour with his fastball over the summer, missing bats with it up in the zone. He couples that with a plus curveball thrown with a high spin rate in the upper 70s. He doesn't throw it as much yet, but he showed off enough low 80s changeups to give a sense that he's going to have a very good 3-pitch mix in the future. Now again, White is a Vanderbilt commit, so if he is going to not go to Vanderbilt, they're going to have to take him early, probably with that 22nd pick. I don't even know if he makes it that far in all honesty, because again, 6'5", throws nearly 100, sounds kind of like Chris Sale or James Paxton to me. I worry a little bit that he may just end up being a reliever just because of that 3-pitch mix and not always finding his command. I still think this is a good guy to take a chance on at the 22 spot. You probably don't have to pay him as much coming out of high school compared to what you would to a college commit, of course, but at the same time, again, he's probably going to go to Vanderbilt. Next, let's talk about shortstop Matt Shaw out of Maryland. Shaw throws right, bats right, and is 5'11". He has a hit tool of 55 and a power tool of 55 with a 60 grade run. According to MLB.com, Shaw might be one of the better college hitters in the draft class. He rarely strikes out and draws walks while making consistently hard contact. He can drive the ball to all fields, and he showed off impressive opposite field power last year for Maryland, with many of his homers going to right and right center field. He's a plus runner who is a legitimate base-stealing threat. Shaw is currently the Terrapins' shortstop, but he has shown off some defensive versatility playing second, third, and the outfield as a freshman and seeing time at both sides of second on the Cape. For the Mariners, drafting Shaw as a shortstop would be their best bet, but again, he can play multiple positions, and he's not going to just be stuck over there at shortstop while you have Cole Young and Felton Celestin. His bat-to-ball skills is something that's going to get him drafted and drafted early, and he'd be a really good pickup for the Mariners if he makes it down to 22. I'm not sure that he's going to, but I would love to have Matt Shaw on this team. Shaw was rated as the 16th best prospect, and the next guy is Tommy Troy at the 17th best prospect. Troy is more of a contact guy than Shaw. He's 21 years old, bats right, and throws right. He has 50 grade hit tool and 50 grade power. His standout tool is the ability to make consistent hard contact from the right side of the plate. He has impressive bat-to-ball skills and rarely strikes out or chases pitches out of the zone, showing excellent pitch recognition. Though there are some moving parts of his swing, there's enough extra base pop in there for there to not be concerns about impact at the next level, and he could have an average power in the future. He was more selective in 2022, he is an above average runner, and he could play center field, they say, as well as possibly second base. Again, I think I like Matt Shaw a little more than I like Tommy Troy, but at the same time, he has some positional versatility, and he's probably going to hit for a better average and get on base a little bit more than Matt Shaw. That brings us to our last shortstop prospect, and that is Jacob Gonzalez at 18. Yeah, Shaw, Troy, and Gonzalez were all ranked back to back to back. Gonzalez is 21 years old. He bats left and throws right out of Mississippi. He's 6'2" with a hit tool of 55 and power of 55. There's a lot of talk that he could be the first shortstop off the board in 2023 just because of his college pedigree. He was the National Freshman of the Year in 2021. He helped Mississippi win its first ever College World Series last June. The collegiate national team, he was the starter at shortstop for the last 2 summers. Now tell me if you've heard this before, but Gonzalez has good bat-to-ball skills, and he controls the strike zone to at least be a solid hitter, something the Mariners would really like, control the zone. And he has been more consistent in 2023 after hunting home runs too much as a sophomore. With his strength, bat speed, and the leverage in his left-handed stroke, he has 25 homer potential. He does a nice job of using the entire field, with most of his over-the-fence power going to the pull side. Gonzalez isn't that quick according to MLB.com. He may be quick enough to stay at shortstop though. There is some talk that he'll have to switch over to third base or second base, but if so, he'd be able to profile as a quality regular at either position. So in my opinion, you have the best of both worlds in Matt Shaw. A little bit of power and also good bat-to-ball skills in Shaw. With Tommy Troy, you have great bat-to-ball skills, but not a whole lot of power. And then in my opinion, with Gonzalez, you have a lot of power and his bat-to-ball skills are usually there. He controls the zone pretty well, but he's not always going to be getting on base for you. That's the way I understand it. Again, I am no expert. But that brings us to our final draft prospect that we need to talk about for the Seattle Mariners, at least in my opinion, and that is Chase Davis, who is conveniently ranked at 22, the same spot as the Mariners have their last pick. Now let me show you his swing and tell me if it reminds you of anybody. Yeah, does he look a little bit like former Mariner and Rocky Carlos Gonzalez? Because he exactly looks like that to me. Davis is an outfielder for Arizona. He's 21 years old, bats left and throws left. He's 6'1", weighing in at 216. He only has a 45 grade hit tool, but 55 grade power and 55 grade run. He has a good arm and is a decent fielder. MLB.com says, since his high school days, Davis has been known for his tremendous raw power from the left side of the plate. In 2022, the outfielder started to learn how to really tap into it. He has the ability to drive the ball to all fields with plenty of opposite field pop and a buggy whip of a swing. There is some swing and miss in his game though. He impressed scouts with a better approach in 2023, showing he can hit enough to get to that power. He played left field in 2022, but he played center field on the Cape, and any team considering Davis in the top couple of rounds might want to send him out as a center fielder to see how he plays at the next level, knowing the power profile could fit back in an outfield corner if he needed to move there. Not only does his swing remind me of Carlos Gonzalez, but also just his profile as a hitter as well. A lot of power, some swing and miss, but also pretty quick, can play center if you need him to. Probably going to end up as a right fielder like Carlos Gonzalez. The swing and miss does worry me a little bit. Of course, the Mariners have plenty of swing and miss on this team and down in the minors with guys like Lazaro Montes. But if they could get Chase Davis, I think that is a guy that I want more than anybody. Again, he is an outfielder, so there's a decent chance they probably go shortstop, and they have 3 picks in the first round, so they may even be able to get a couple of these guys. More than likely, knowing how the MLB draft works, they'll probably get none of the guys I talked about. But with that being said, these guys I like a lot. A lot of these guys could eventually end up being all-stars, and there are some moments in the all-star game for the Mariners that you may have forgotten about, and I have that video on the screen right now. Be sure to check that one out before the all-star game on Tuesday. I appreciate you guys watching this one, and go Mariners!